We can share.
You might have to share my.
He didn't really want to hear what Eric had to say anyway. No, there you go.
Yeah, it's not like we were coming in here to do a panel or anything. Oh. All right. So, Q&A stuff? That's going to feedback. Okay. All right, great. Anybody have any questions for us?
Okay, you. Yeah, the girl with the ears that you with the, and the glasses and the somewhat Nazi-esque arm. I'm not promoting Nazis. What did you want to ask? How did I feel when I what? When you did the role of Mephiles. Evil Hedgehog. It was fun. Playing bad guys, you'll hear a lot of performers say this, is fun because you get to do so many things that you can't admit to doing in public. But and when you look at a pretty standard kind of story, the hero reacts to what the bad guy is doing usually, right? So it's fun to be the instigator, Yeah. Everybody likes the bad boy, right?
Yes.
Good question.
Oh, over here.
I just wanted to say that it's such an honor to meet you. You guys were like my first anime, and I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for you.
Oh, thank
Aww.
you. We are definitely truly humbled by that, though, just so you know. I mean, when you say things like the voice of our childhood, stuff like that, it actually does mean something to us. So we do not take that for granted.
Yeah. Just to expand on that, we do what we do because we have certain aptitudes that allow us to do this kind of work, and we show up and we do a job. And the idea that I would have fans of any kind is so surprising to me, not because I have terrible self-esteem, that's a whole other panel for a different time.
That's on Sunday.
Yeah, right. But because, that's as surprising to me as like a plumber having lots of people say, dude, my sinks, they work awesome. That was great the way you made the pipes work. I'm showing up and I'm doing a job, and I had the great fortune to work with Eric on the show.
Well, Mario is popular.
But that is so precious to me. Thank you. Yes, with the headphones.
What's it like being an actual Pokemon?
I'm an actual. Are they real?
Only if you believe.
Eric, have you been holding out on me? Did you know?
Unfortunately, that's what Brock makes his jelly donuts out of. That's why he doesn't have a girlfriend. There you go. You asked. You wanted to know.
I will say, though, that Trico was one of my favorite things to do in the booth.
Do the voice.
What was it like playing multiple characters in one show?
It's fun. It's fun. Finally, enough things for my different personalities to do. I was doing Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Samurai Deeper Kyo came along. Another split personality, and I was like, maybe I gotta go back to therapy. Am I getting typecast as the guy? But no, actors love to perform, and it's great to have a variety of different things to play. So the more, the better. I mean, and Erickson obviously has tons of that.
Yeah, I mean, Brock and James, that's great.
Right.
The good thing is we dub one at a time. I've only had to do James and Brock at the same time. I once had to do a radio interview, a phoner, where they wanted to talk to me, Eric Stuart, and Brock and James, and I had to sort of ping pong between.
Wow.
The good thing was it was about 6 o'clock in the morning, so I wasn't quite awake yet, and I think that was the only way I could really focus.
In the back, you, sir. You. Okay.
Did you voice Vector in the Shadow Hedgehog game?
I'm not sure. I know that sounds like a lame answer, but it's unfortunately true. You, sir.
Do you remember the episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they explained the ancient Egyptian link? Do you believe in reincarnation?
I do remember the episode, and I actually personally, ever since I was a kid, back in the 1800s, I always had an attraction to Egyptology, ancient Egypt. I probably was influenced a bit by Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I found that the incorporation of Egyptian mythology in the series very appealing. And in terms of reincarnation, I don't think that anybody can definitively say what happens after we leave this realm. But I have a very open mind. Or the shadow.
Well played.
Yeah. Where's Bakura when you need him?
I have some stories, and I'll tell you them if you're interested.
I'm sorry?
I have some stories.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear them, but let's first get some more questions
Yes.
from the rest of the fans here.
Sure.
You.
For my
Weird? Come on. I do anime.
first episode of GX, you voiced Yugi, and it was more of a Yami-ish voice, and I was wondering if you had your own take on what Yugi's voice would sound like 10 years later.
Yugi's voice 10 years. So you're saying that in the original episode, it wasn't as high. The voice wasn't as high as it became.
Right.
And so what would happen if that high voice actually grew up and went through puberty? It would sound like I sound right now. but that's an interesting point. So in that, you'll notice in a lot of shows, like The Simpsons, if you watch the earlier episodes, they don't sound exactly like they sounded much later on. And so there's a process of finding what's right for the character, and this is influenced largely by the producers and the directors. So what I do as a performer is try to satisfy as best I can those demands. I am not the kind of actor that goes in and says, no, it must be this, and that's all I'll do, and whatever. So there was, some inconsistency there, but I think ultimately we served the story and the character. Yeah. You want to call?
No, keep going, Dan. It's
Okay,
good.
I got a
It's good.
skill, I got a talent, yeah.
Good.
You in the back, sir, you in the red shirt.
Dan, are you ever surprised that none of the other characters react to the change in Yugi when he switches out?
It's
No,
a
no,
little...
no, I think I once addressed it as Kaiba. I think I once addressed that in an episode, right? Back me up, fans. That's something- I did. Thank you. Yeah.
But I also
Learn your Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, seriously. But he is correct. For the most part, there wasn't much said about it. So,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yes, you, sir, with the hat.
Did you ever end up playing the card game?
Yeah, one Thanksgiving, soon after the series, first started and it was becoming popular, I was home visiting family, and one of my sister's friends had a son that was really into the show, and so we played several rounds of the game, and he totally kicked my ass. So I only act like the king of games on TV. Let's have a woman here. Yes.
I've got a comment and a question, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comment is, I grew up watching the standard Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Digimon, but Yu-Gi-Oh really stood out to me because of the lessons it taught about standing up for yourself and learning to be a better person with almost an alter, with the alter ego as
Sure.
it relates to Yugi.
Sure.
And it really helped me to see Yugi growing, and it helped me to kind of get some confidence in myself. So I really want, and I liked Kaiba, but he was kind of a jerk, so.
As he was supposed to be.
Yes,
in the
exactly.
show.
But I loved all the characters, most of the characters.
That's a beautiful comment. Did you also have a question?
The question was, there were 5 seasons, Dual Skin and Battle Stage, Virtual Realm, Orichalcos, or Waking the Dragons,
I don't even know
Duel,
that.
and then Dawn of Duel. What would you say was your favorite season, and do you have a reason why it was your favorite?
Is this to me more than
You want to know Dan's in?
either? Well, you wait first.
Yeah, I would say that I actually preferred the beginning of the thing. I liked the entire creation of what we were doing. We were all both as production side, the writers, the director, the actors. We were all finding, the path to take, and so that was exciting. Once you get into the character, that's great. I mean, where the storyline takes us, but I kind of like, putting the cake together, making,
Yeah, the discovery.
Yeah.
The discovery is interesting, and just a response to your first comment. I think that's great. What you got out of that show, and for me as a performer, it was really. Felt very fortunate to be working on something where we had, a split personality, two characters. that help balance each other out, right? And when you're growing up and you're not terribly, confident, or you have some things that you wish you were better at, I think we often imagine, oh, if I just had some guiding force to help me believe in those aspects of myself. So I thought that was great. And also, Yugi helps Yami, as the series goes on, too, kind of evens him out, because he does have some temper issues, or maybe he just drinks too much coffee. But, but that was great. And also,
locked in a tomb for potentially thousands of years, and you have some anger issues too.
But also linking to what Eric was saying about the beginning of the show, this may be surprising to recall, but that happened right after 9/11. We were originally going to air the first episode, and it got bumped because of the events of 9/11. And I got back into the booth within that week, and it felt so strange to be doing anything. And we live in New York, right where it happened. And I was trying to, come up with some way of getting through the session just so I wouldn't give a lousy performance, but it just seemed so irrelevant. Everything seemed so irrelevant at that time. And I thought, well, okay, I'm doing something that might be helpful. Right? Just as a form of entertainment for kids, right? They're scared, so that was cool. But in terms of my favorite episode or favorite season,
Episode 42.
See, well, okay, it would be the one that's mostly about me. No, I kid. I mean, the beginning was great, and I also think the series concluded well. And I really respect that they didn't try to make the story something other than what it should be. Like, they didn't extend Yami and Yugi for years and years and years and years after that would, be interesting, right? So, and I think that the way they ended the series was good.
Good question.
Yeah.
What was your favorite fan moment?
Fan moment?
Yeah.
I think they're about to come. He told me to say that.
Favorite or funniest
Right.
moment?
My favorite was, I was doing a con recently, and this young woman walked up and said, "You probably don't remember me, but 15 years ago I wrote you an email when I was in middle school, and I wanted to do an interview for my class. And so I thought, I'm going to write Eric and see if he'll do an interview." And of course, I do answer all my fan mail. I might be slow, but I do answer everything. And so it was a series of questions about the business, and so I answered them, and she said, "I was very shy. I was like a new kid in the school. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I thought this would be kind of a neat thing to do. So I got you to do this interview," which I couldn't believe you said yes. "And I read it in class, and all my friends were so impressed with the fact that I got you to do this, that all of a sudden I became popular, and it gave me confidence. And so I'm looking at her, and she's this beautiful young woman, and she's like, "I'm here with my fiance. He's one of the vendors here who's an artist, and she's about to get married." And she goes, "And I brought the paper. Would you autograph it?" And I was like, that's what puts it into perspective. You look at what someone has become with a little help from me. I mean, come on, that's a little. I feel a little, that's pretty big, So that's my best fan moment, something like that.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I have two. One was, have you heard of Make-A-Wish?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a person back there with these dual disc things, the armature. Right. So there was a boy, and his Make-A-Wish was to meet Yu-Gi-Oh, and we had one of those. I know, right? It's like, but understanding that that was what was significant for him. And you guys are obviously fans of the material, and some people look at the show and they're like, well, whatever. But that's meaningful, to me. And also, I haven't told this story very often, but I would not have met the woman that became my wife had it not been for Yu-Gi-Oh! And her watching the show. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
I like the guy that's holding up his hair.
Let's do that. He's sacrificing a lot for that question.
That was like,
Notice! It's red with blood.
Yeah.
Oh,
With Blue Eyes White Dragon. I get asked all the time, "Are you tired of saying this?" I'm like, no. If I got tattoos, it would be on my shoulder. That's all I ever say. It's my favorite card.
Well, why don't you get one?
And now thematically, the Dark Magician is linked to the Yugi and Atem. But in terms of just actually performing in the booth, it would be Exodia.
Yeah.
Obliterate is a great word.
Yeah.
What's that?
Same with
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
All right.
You go.
I'll play my card, then you can kill me with it. I play my Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Well done, Kaiba. But now that I've assembled all the pieces of Exodia, obliterate!
Every time.
It's the writers, man. It's the writers. The good guy usually wins.
Yeah.
Until Weeble screws it up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good question. Put your hair back on. There you go.
You miss. You.
Is there any character that you've ever voiced that most relates to you?
Well, so much of the little bits and personalities of all of them. I mean, Brock could definitely have been me in high school. I liked girls, so I can relate to that. I think Kaiba's sarcastic, biting comments. Anybody who's friends with me knows that that's not the stretch. So that's kind of a part of that. Also, I think that what was cool about Kaiba was that he's, even though everyone said, "Oh, he's a jerk," he still has a mission. He's consistent.
Right. He's not evil.
Yeah, and he's not evil. The example I use is kind of like Apollo Creed to Rocky. I'm his sparring partner. I make the hero keep at the top of his game. I'm not his enemy. If I wasn't around, he could just wallow and just relax and sit by the pool. I keep him there at the top of the game, and I think that I like the depth of his character. So that kind of relates, I think, to me, is that I'm definitely someone who is driven. So there's two characters right there.
In general, while you always endow parts of yourself into the character, you have to, or else you're not really doing the job right. I don't identify with my characters, and I think if you were to try to make an anime out of my personality, nobody would watch it. But there is something to the duality of both Yugi and Atem that I think we can all relate to. And with Samurai Deeper Kyo, I did have particular sympathy for Kyoshiro, the more humble one, because he did have, and he was the one that won. Right. It was because he was not consumed by anger, right, and still had power, right. And in my life, I try to be somebody who is generous, but it is aggravating because that can often be mistaken for weakness. So there's something to that. But you find something appealing about, like Hudson Horstachio was so much fun for me to play.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah. And hopefully I'm not that kind of narcissist, but it's really fun to play that kind of thing. Because it's so ridiculous. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. You, sir, with the spam. Mr. Spam. You're not going to spam me with questions, are you? Okay.
I was wondering if there was a preference between doing the more kid-friendly, for-kid stuff like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all that goodness, or if you have more fun when you would get to do the more mature roles like Samurai Deeper Kyo.
Well, I think as an actor, all of that stuff is, if you want to say it's fun, all of it is a challenge, and it's part of our job. I like the funny stuff a lot. Like playing James and those kind. But a lot of those jokes were double entendres that really were for your parents that had to sit and watch the show with you, right?
Yes.
So that stuff was in there too. I don't know if I have a preference. Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely. I remember when I was brought in to direct the Yu-Gi-Oh! From the beginning, and they showed me the first episode, and I said, "So this is sort of like Pokemon 90210." That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I said, it's the same sort of. It's just more mature. It's still comedy in there, but
It's edgier.
Yeah, I don't have a preference. I've always stayed away from things that are inappropriate and that are not family friendly stuff. I don't do that kind of dubbing. So everything that I do is pretty much fan friendly. So I think they're both the same to me.
It really depends on the quality of the material, you know. So I would much rather be. Now I have a slight preference for things that are a bit more mature, just because that's what I tend to like to watch. But I would much rather be in a well-written, children-oriented, piece of material than a poorly written adult or whatever kind of thing. So yeah.
Good question.
Yes, Yuki.
Okay, first a comment. I love you.
No, and you got the Millennium Puzzle.
Right.
Also, as another comment, when I was little, I used to love this show, but everybody at my school, like the whole place were guys, so like I pretended to hate it. But at home, I would just be like, oh my gosh. Like all the girls would be like, ew, why do you like that? So I didn't do it. And here's my question, Dan, what does it feel like to have the sexiest voice on TV?
That is so funny.
I swoon every time I hear it in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes.
Well, that's so flattering and a little embarrassing, but I guess the only thing I can say is it's awesome. That's very, very kind. That's very kind. Fortunately, I don't think that of myself. Well, okay, but I'm very glad that you feel that way. There's a crowd over here. Are you with the green hair?
I have a comment also. You were really amazing, and when you did Descent into Darkness,
Yeah.
a lot of people never really, like, when I talk to people like that, no one really knows what that is, but when you did Suzuki, it was really amazing, and it was really cute.
Good.
And I was wanting to know, what was your favorite line, if you could you say it?
I don't really remember a lot of the lines from Descendants of Darkness, but the process was very freeform. So sometimes when you work on this stuff, you get a script that has been worked every inch, every syllable, it's all worked out. Many times that's not the case. And when I started doing anime, I was working with material where that was not the case. And so what you do is, as a performer, you learn how to extend the line, improvise the material. You're still being true to the story, right? But you're rewording it for yourself. And so I was doing that with Descendants of Darkness. And the director I was working with allowed my sense of humor to bleed through here and there. And I think that's why I enjoyed that series so much. And I think that might be why some other people liked it too. And I was allowed to breathe in a certain way that was fun, you know. But there are some outtakes that obviously never got put into the show. And there was one where Suzuki's confronting the big demon, and he's doing it's the final episode, and he's doing his final act of whatever it is, self-sacrifice. Right. But he's doing this this big dramatic thing, and we weren't able to fit the flap right, the mouth movement or whatever. And I was like, okay, I got it. And this big dramatic moment, and he says, "I validate your parking!" One of those fun moments at work, but not a real line in the show.
I don't know.
There's so many.
How about with the purple?
Yeah.
Purple.
Yeah.
Purple. Oh.
I wanted to thank you guys for being my two best friends to a very bullied fifth grader who really liked the show. And why am I crying?
It's okay.
It's all right.
What are both you guys' favorite booth moments, either like serious or funny or just random that happened out of the blue?
Oh, booth moments.
Yeah, booth moments.
Well,
that should be like a series.
Exactly. It's not. I won't say it's specifically what the line was, but one of the things that would happen because a lot of times we dub and then we leave the room, and then the next guy comes in and leaves the room, so we see each other in passing. And if you do make a mistake or a funny outtake like what Dan just said, the engineer would sometimes take that line and stick it on the alt track, the special alt track. And we get a series of beeps before we it'll go bip, 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 and when the fourth one should be is when we start talking. Well, you're seriously in your moment, you're getting ready to do a dramatic scene, and the engineer will unmute the funny line that precedes your. So you'll hear boop, boop, "I validate your parking." And then you just fall over and you laugh on the floor for a couple of minutes with the giggles and you can't work anymore. You're like, I was just about to do the whole death scene and now I've got that in my ear. So there's moments like that which are a lot of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, and what Eric is saying is exactly true of my experience and so many of the other people that we've worked with, all of whom have such great senses of humor, and so there's almost too many to choose from, and probably so many that I've forgotten. But there is one where this was, I believe it was for, I was portraying Sky in Wings Club, and yeah, basically kind of like Yugi voice, but so anyway, there was some mouth movement, mouth flap that wasn't quite working, and it was because of sort of less than great animation, right? Although that show was generally well animated. So the mouth movement was kind of like open, 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 but then they never resolved it, right? And so again, and the writers did their best, and so we're scratching our heads trying to figure out what to do. And I said, okay, I got it, okay. And the line is like something like, okay, then let's go to the palace or whatever like that. And so beep, 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 and I say, okay, let's go to the palace. It matched. You with the red hat.
What are your personal favorite episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh doing?
Yeah. Is there a wrong answer? I'll defer to Eric first.
No, I don't know if I don't know if I have a favorite.
Yeah.
What? Which one?
One more time of season, Yugi has a breakdown, and Kaiba is able to beat Yugi because he has a breakdown.
Yeah, that wouldn't be my favorite.
No, I mean, I don't know. There were so many great.
And I think the earlier ones stand out a little bit more because, like Eric said, we were still kind of figuring it out at the time. It's a more formative stage, and then once you know what you're doing, it's sort of like, okay, a little bit more of a routine.
Yeah.
There was something though it was definitely in the first season, and there's like some trash talk with the whoever the opponent is, and so he's saying, I'm gonna beat you, and I said, no, you're not. You think you can beat me, and as Yame, I said, oh, I'll beat you all right, and I was playing the double meaning, and I was like, and I said, like I'm gonna crack him. And I asked Eric, is that okay? And he's like, no, let's keep that.
It's a good question. All right. What next time?
Over there, you.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was looking at the stocking arm.
There was. You guys were holding.
Was that?
Hands.
Were you a team?
You guys holding
Were you a team?
Arms? You have a dual question.
Well, I know that you've voiced Knuckles for many years, so I'm curious, what is your opinion on Knuckles' redesign in Sonic Code?
Oh my god.
I have a sense that I shouldn't like it. I honestly, I'm not familiar with what they've done with Knuckles recently, so, but I'm sorry that their redesign is apparently not popular.
You mean they changed something that was working and they made it bad?
We got another Yugi back there.
Yes,
I think we should acknowledge.
What's your least favorite card?
Ooh.
His favorite card.
It's got
That's a good thing.
the ones that are really hard to pronounce. The ones that are really that just have no flow.
You know what my least? I never played it, but because I had to direct it all the time, I hated Harpy's ladies, sisters.
Yes.
We had such arguments with the creators of that because they couldn't decide whether it was Harpy's lady sisters, Harpy's ladies sister, or like
Harpy lady.
Is it like is she a Harpy lady who has sisters, or is it like Harpy? And we must have dubbed it like 10 different ways in the first episode, and I'm like, there's no way that they're all consistent when this goes on the air. So I hate that card.
I don't think I ever did. I ever do that?
No.
It's in your Kaiba's Reloaded.
Yes, exactly. You mean changing something that worked well?
I have to say, I was never very fond of the name Burfomet. It just sounds like something that you do after a meal that you don't want people to hear.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Good question. Yes.
Yes. Our friend over there who traveled. Yes.
Yes.
You, sir.
If there was like one anime world that you could like live in, what would it be?
Which one would it be?
One anime world? SB anime?
Yes. Like any of the animes that you've seen or you produce or.
Right. Right.
Battle of the Planets G-Force. I would be part of G-Force. I would be Mark from G-Force.
I'd be Jason.
See, we're geeks too. Oh, right in the front.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What's like a movie you should watch?
Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Hail Hydra!
Yeah, no, I just flew back from Australia and I watched about 17 movies on the plane.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what I watched. There were so many movies. Oh my goodness.
While he's thinking of that answer.
I just watched Saving Mr. Banks. I was really moved by that movie. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it. I was like, this is not what I want to be watching. And I'm like crying on the plane. It was really a good movie. Yeah, so there you go.
What I particularly love about the Winter Soldier movie is, I mean, it's great, action, fun, all that. Love the characters. I'm a comic geek guy, and yes, I'm not Marvel over DC. I love them all. But I really thought it was interesting, clever, and poignant, perhaps, that a movie and a story which is thematically about distrust, that our hero's defining heroic action was bestowing trust. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So, and again, that's an example of strength without being overbearing and violent. And, strength of character.
Good question. There's a doctor.
Oh, we better answer the question. We got a bad diagnosis. Yes, doctor.
First off, I just want to say thank you for voicing Judy. It makes me feel like my little imaginary friend was like the 7th or 8th.
You're very welcome. Spider-Man was mine. You're very welcome. Spider-Man, there you are! Oh my God! I didn't know you were going to be here. I'm sorry. Wait. Let's have her finish the question. Yeah.
Well, how did you feel when Yu-Gi-Oh finally ended?
Aww.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think Dan touched on that before. I mean, it seemed to end the right way, right?
It was sad.
To not be working too on that show anymore.
Yeah.
But.
But yeah, I mean, it was great. It was sad. Peter. But it was sad and emotional. But I think better that than to drag it out and feel like, oh, this really just not.
Okay, so my memory of Spider-Man, and I will show you the picture. My parents saw that they were doing some promotional thing at some store across town and in Brooklyn, and they were like, Spider-Man's going to be making an appearance. Do you want to go? And I think I might have been 10 years old, and so I have a picture of me sitting on Spider-Man's lap, just going, this guy's freaky. And I have the Polaroid of that shot, and it's like you could even like look. He's got his leg around me. I'm like, Mom, where were you? Did you not understand he was like a child molester? So, Spidey, you can go back to your chair now. Thank you.
Aww.
Let's get a selfie.
Obviously, your imaginary friend was not that guy.
Yeah, he was imaginary.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
One last question from me,
Sure.
and this is for Eric.
Oh.
If you had to write a country song about a situation from Yu-Gi-Oh, what would that sound like, or something?
I've got friends in low places.
Yugi is short. That's true.
Aww.
He's short.
Good question.
He's cute.
With the green hair, the miss.
I know everybody else has said this and is gonna say this, but dude, I love you. Thank you very
Oh my God, thank you. That is so touching. Thank you so much. I love me too. That's very, thank you.
But anyway, like, what do you feel about the other characters? What do you think of them? Are they funny? Are they stupid? Are they...
Wait, there are other characters in the show?
It's really like my lines, other stuff, my lines. No, but you know, it's an interesting question about the other characters because both a show like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, and we're talking about the formula, and this is why I was making the joke about what doesn't work or what does work, and don't change what does work. What's great about those types of shows are there is a character that we all can relate to. It might not be the hero or the exactly. You might find Joey to be your hero or whatever it may be that you connect to. And if there is no one you can connect to, then it doesn't matter. The show disappears. People stop watching it. So yeah, you want to hate Kaiba and like Joey, or you want to whatever it may be. You connect to someone. And so I think all of the characters on, except for Weevil, I think all of the characters.
Oh, yes!
If I had to direct Weevil battling one more time, I think I would stab my own eye. But anyway, yeah, I like them all. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I always liked Joey and the relationship of Joey and Mai, and because I am a pervert. Yes. But and what's interesting when you watch the Japanese, Joey is not portrayed at all the way that he was interpreted in the American English one. He's portrayed more as your conventional hero guy. You know, he was sort of the tough guy, right? I always thought Kaiba was very, very cool. I'm not just saying that because Eric is sitting next to me. Yeah, and Bakura, a very interesting character there. Yeah. So, but there, again, there's just lots of good characters. Yeah, and the relevant ones are the ones that stick with you.
Yeah.
The woman with the very peculiar hat.
I'm a guy.
Oh, you're sort of dressed as a woman.
Thank you, though. That's first of all, Yomi and Yugi and Kaiba were all my absolute heroes when I was a kid. I mean,
that's awesome.
They are my childhood.
Cool.
That's awesome.
And can I get you to say "Believe in the Heart of the Cards" in Yomi's voice?
Sure, of course.
And can I record it?
Okay, sure. And that's totally cool. I'm very happy to do this. Also, I will do similar sorts of things later when I'm doing my signing stuff, so don't hesitate to ask, okay? Okay, what's your name?
BJ.
BJ? You're rolling? BJ, you must always believe in the heart of the cards. Okay.
That was awesome.
Go ahead, Dan. Pick somebody.
Okay, yes, pink and blue.
Okay, I have a very important question. I've been going around the convention this weekend taking selfies with cute people. Can I come up and take a selfie with you guys?
Sure.
You know you have to take a lot of selfies.
I'll step aside as you and Eric have a photo.
Aww.
That's what I was looking for, thanks.
I think she's dressed as ethic.
All right. Okay, so who's got some questions for us? Way in the back with the cap on. Yeah. No, yeah, you've got a cap on. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you just embrace the character, and actually, I think maybe similar to what you're asking, when we did Bonds Beyond Time, I hadn't done those characters in a while, and it was like reacquainting with old friends, almost, It's like, oh yeah, I remember kind of being this way and doing this thing. So yeah, it was great to return to. And I have thought, like, okay, what, could they, if they were going to do another story with Yugi and Yami, what would be something that would be worth telling? and not just milking the franchise and whatever. And I mean, and I had some ideas, and I know that there is some thinking by people other than me about trying to make something like that happen. And if that were to happen, I just hope it's a story worth telling. Yeah. But it's always great. I mean, I have affection for those characters too. In a sense, we depersonalize ourselves from our work. It's something that we do and we complete. So yeah, I like those guys too. Thank you. Yes, you with the glass. Yes, you.
How do you feel about the abridged version of Yu-Gi-Oh? About
I believe Eric is not going to respond.
Oh.
Verbally. Yeah, I've seen episodes, and obviously he has tremendous wit, and he's put a lot of work into it, and it is humorous, and the fans understand that he's doing it with love, as do I. And so I mean, I think it's funny. I don't watch all those episodes, but it also might surprise you. Like, I don't watch a lot of regular Yu-Gi-Oh too, but. I will also say, I was chatting, I believe, with his wife about this last night. It's not the hardest show to make fun of. It's not really hard. There are certain things in the show that are easy targets. So, but that doesn't diminish his talent. I'd be curious to see him do something other than that. You, sir.
So, Eric, what is the proper way to use a frying pan?
As a drying pan. Why that line has become my catchphrase as Brock, I have no idea. It is pretty much.
You, sir.
All right. Could I get you to do the Team Rocket motto?
No.
I don't do it.
Let me explain something to you. I don't memorize any of my lines, except that one.
Because fans reflected back at you.
Because I have a script in front of me, and the motto changed every time. We re-recorded it every time, and you know what? You probably know it better than I do. I'm not one of those guys who go, oh yeah, remember that movie and you know every quote from it? No, that's not me. That's not me. So I don't know it. You probably could do it better than me.
And actually, what may not be obvious to you guys is, I was talking a little bit earlier about, like, this is our job. We show up and we do our work and we do our hardest and we really want it to be good, and then we leave it and we go. And when I encounter actors that celebrate and talk about their own work and quote themselves in their work, they're kind of considered jackasses.
Yeah.
Kind of like narcissistic. Just get over yourself. But it's not for lack of respect for the work that we've done.
No. Someone's holding up two cards. That's kind of weird.
Okay, there we go. It's a throwdown. It's a duel.
Yeah.
I got a question for Dan Green.
Okay.
How did you feel voicing Officer Trudge in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D?
Trudge fans, I would not have had that role if Eric hadn't decided on the day that we were first introduced to that character in the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series to have me voice the part of a bully. Because I'm doing Yugi, I'm doing Yami, but fortunately I was permitted to gruff up my voice enough playing a bully that it was differentiated enough to pass. And in terms of what they did with Trudge, I thought it was interesting, and I thought we kind of he had more dimension, and that kind of voice, this kind of thing. It's fun to do. I don't know that he had tremendous relevance in the show, but it was fun, and I'm glad that they allowed me to participate in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise again, and as opposed to saying, no, Dan Green can only be those characters, and we'll never let Dan Green play in that world again. So that was nice. So it was nice that they let me do that. Not everybody would, be cool with that.
Yeah.
You.
I love Pokemon and I love Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's one of your favorites that I actually just saw that you were in as well, because I knew Eric had done this. Is Ultimate Muscle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ultimate Muscle.
Oh my
I
God.
met people a couple of years ago when I was in line and they were like naming somebody off, and I was like, and you were Tick and Ultimate Muscle.
Yeah.
And everybody looked at me like, what the is wrong with you?
Yeah, I know. No, Dick Van Dyke. Oh yeah.
I was wondering if I could get a recording of one of your signature moves.
I don't know any of
Yeah,
my names.
yeah.
I just remember that Dick Van Dyck was
Oddly named.
And I'll
For
tell
a
you,
kid show.
I must take 50% responsibility for that name because when the show came down for production, we always have to clear the names of the characters, so there's no copyright problems. And there was already the Gazelle and Gazelle Man. And so we were like, what are we going to do? So I went and I looked up online all the different antelopes. And I found a Dick. And I said, this is perfect. So I came to the producer and I said, hey, how about Dick Van Dyck? No, actually I said Dick Van Dyke. And he said, if you're going to call him Dick, let's call him Dick Van Dyck.
So half that dick is yours. Interesting. I never thought of you as a half-dick kind of guy.
I know, thank you.
Wait, what?
Not the over 18.
Sorry.
Come on. Yes, but I'm glad you like that show. And for anyone who has not seen at least the first 2 seasons of Ultimate Muscle, it is a very funny. You need to watch it.
It's
yes.
so adolescent.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
crazy.
Yeah. It is, with the headphones on.
What was it like for you guys working on Slayer?
Well, what Dan was saying before about scripts not being prepared.
Yeah, that's what that show was.
Yeah, there was a lot of ad-libbing going on in that, and actually that was my first recurring role, playing Gowry.
And I think that was one of my first animes.
Yeah. And it was a great production team. It was fun to record with those guys. And I really like that. I like the dynamic between Gowry and Lena, even though she's yelling at him all the time. And if you knew Lisa, that's probably what she does normally with me. But I liked their relationship because it was love that wasn't like, they were not boyfriend and girlfriend. It was this friendship, this tight friendship between the two of them. And even though he was a bumbling knucklehead, he was very protective of her. And when the chips were down, he was truly still a great hero. So I liked playing him a lot.
Guy with the tie, you've been patient.
I know you said earlier that it's just a job for you, or it feels like you're swimming in the mood, even though you have fans. But I'm curious how good of friends the two of you are outside.
The two of us.
Yeah. Well, and also let me clarify. By just a job, my job is to do things where I get to explore meaningful things. You understand what I mean? So it's not just a job in terms of like mowing the lawn, right? So it is relevant, right? But not so much so that I think I should be celebrated for it, necessarily, right? And I don't know this guy. We've been friends a long time. One of the things that we were doing for years is gaming online.
Yep.
But I've been to Eric's house. We I guess we don't like call each other and go out to lunch.
Right.
But that we work together for so long, that we have mutual respect. We honestly like each other, and also we share friends in common, and just that whole life experience in common is incredibly bonding and relevant.
Yeah.
And last night we were catching up because we don't get to see each other for a while, and this was before the
Risque,
right. And Eric said it just this morning. We could have just spent the whole night catching up.
Yeah, just the two of us just hanging out. And what's I got, I think I consider myself pretty lucky because I was directing, I got to actually work with each one of the actors, because as I said before, we pass each other in the halls when we're just dubbing.
Right.
But I got to spend hours and hours working with these people. And
Wayne.
then of course, Wayne Grayson and all of those guys and gals. And that's where you develop whether you're going to be friends or not, because that's how you sort of meet them.
Right.
But we've worked on shows obviously for years, but we also, Dan and I are friends. I know that ruins the whole Yugi Kaiba thing, which just goes to show you that we might be semi-good actors. Right in the front.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for making Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually watchable in English.
Thank you.
I have trouble listening to some animes in English because I don't like the dubbing. But
Sure. Thank you.
Both of y'all and everybody else who've worked on that. But this is not necessarily attached to Yu-Gi-Oh! But to y'all's jobs and all.
Right.
What's a memorable experience for y'all?
Wow.
Well, I've been fortunate to work on things that are good, and hopefully I haven't mucked up, my part in it. One of my most favorite experiences of acting was when I was doing theater, and right after I got out of school, I was understudying a play called Philadelphia, Here I Come, and I was on stage, and I was understudying the lead role, and this is a character who was on stage 90% of the time. I was portraying the inner mind of a main character. Foreshadowing. There was a lot of dialogue and blocking and all those sorts of things, and everybody else on the stage was Irish, real Irish, and so I had to have a convincing Irish dialect. And I had to go on for Robert Sean Leonard was the guy who was the star, and I was understudying him. And I had to go on before the show officially opened. So I had one opportunity to run through the performance, actually on stage with the actors. But I did it, and it went over well, and that was a wonderful experience. It was on Broadway, and so that was a wonderful experience for any actor to have coming fresh out of school. So that's off the top of my head one. Everything else after that was downhill. I'm kidding.
Well, mine is not voice-over related. It's actually music related. My management at the time said to me, "Hey, we've got something we want to submit you for. Can you just record some stuff? It's just you and your guitar because we want to submit you for something." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." And so I didn't have a studio at the time. I just went into my walk-in closet and I had a little cassette recorder and I recorded a couple of songs and I sent it in. And 2 weeks later they said, "Yeah, listen, Ringo listened to your tape and he wants you to open the All-Star Band tour." And I said, "Okay, that sounds cool," right? So I flew out to Seattle for the first show, and I hadn't met anybody on the tour yet. And I'm downstairs in my dressing room waiting for my sound check, and I'm listening to the All-Star Band rehearse or sound check, and I'm like, wow, that sounds great. But I haven't even got up there yet. And I hear them call my name. They're like, "Eric Stuart, please come upstairs, for sound check." And I go in. It's a beautiful theater. And my manager's standing way in the back of the room. It's just the two of us. And I play a song, a verse and a chorus. And I say, "So how did it sound?" And I hear, "Well, it sounds great. You've got a great, powerful voice. I really like what you're doing."
Oh my God!
And I look over and it's Ringo. And he comes walking onto the side of the stage. And he comes up and he greets me and he welcomes me to the tour and we shake hands. And as we're parting, I punch him in the arm like I would Dan. I'd be like, "Yeah, it's great to be here." And as I'm walking away, I went, "I just punched a Beatle. What's wrong with me?" So yeah, that was kind of surreal for me.
You've had your hand up for a long time.
You said earlier, you mentioned listening to the Japanese. Have you ever watched any animes like in the Japanese?
Oh, sure. Sure. Actually, there's a lot of anime stuff that I've done where I've adapted it. Sometimes I'm also in the show. Well, Samurai Deeper Kyo, I didn't direct the first volume, but I adapted the first volume and the rest of the show. So yeah, I'm quite familiar with the original Japanese, and I have tremendous respect for what that is, and hopefully a good enough understanding of how to remain true to that, but also satisfy the expectations of American audiences and understand what doesn't work. Like there are a lot of reactions in Japanese, like, "Oh," it's like, okay, that's great, but that's not what people in America are going to understand. Even if we just did that directly, people would be like, "What?" So yeah, and it's a beautiful language. I do find it funny though that when I just say, "Hey, I've dubbed a lot of stuff," they say, "So do you speak Japanese?" No. See, I'm dubbing it into English, which means that I don't have to speak the Japanese. I'm translating it. Yeah.
This is a comment for Dan. So in 2004, I was 10 and I watched Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Pokemon and stuff since I was 5 and 6. But Yu-Gi-Oh was the first time that I had ever wondered about the voice actors that did the voices.
Sure.
I never really thought about it. And I was admittedly hopelessly in love with Yugi.
And not many people are.
Yugi, not Yami, which is
right.
Not really the common thing, but.
Right. That's like liking Luke instead of Han. What's your problem?
But I purposely looked on the credits one day and it said Yugi, Yami, Dan Green, and I was like, I don't know who Dan Green is, but I'm going to meet that guy.
Well, now you've got it.
And that was 2004, and I've never seen you before, and so I'm having an experience 10 years later. I'm very excited.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is so cool. What you said about not being so interested or maybe even aware about the voices behind the animation reminds me of a story where it was within the first year, and I was visiting home, and one of my relatives had a son, 10 years old actually or so, and so he said, okay, well let me get my son on the phone and you can do your Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So we do that, and I'm on the cell phone, and I'm trying to have a conversation with this kid, and he just doesn't really say anything. Hand the phone back to his dad, and apparently he told his father, Dad, Yu-Gi-Oh is a cartoon character. That can't be the guy. So he was so young, he just thought like there were no actors, like those are just, yeah.
Well, there's definitely that age where
they don't get the
where I make sure not to do the voice for them in front of them because I don't want to destroy that. Like wait a second, that's not that character. Yeah. But good question.
I warped his mind.
We got a couple more minutes, so let's make them some good quick questions. We got one. Yep, one more.
Mime face.
I want to make a quick comment. Pretty much I was the only one, and well, not the only one, but one of the few people in my school, like elementary school, that still like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all that stuff. So I got picked on a lot in front of them. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you both. You know, because James is my favorite Pokemon.
Of course he is.
Same here.
And of course Yugi and all that stuff. Just want to say thank you both.
You're welcome.
For helping me keep my spirit up and all that stuff. I've been watching it every day. And I have a little request. It's gonna be a little weird. Can Yugi say summon as Exodia again, but instead of Kaiba, have it as James, so it has
I guess that's a good way to close this year.
Well, do we want to close it with that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll close it with that. Do we want to take one more question before we do that? One more. Who hasn't been? Okay, you. Oh.
Thank you.
I have a question for Eric, actually.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Kaiba's relationship with Mokuba?
I think that's the thing that grounds him of not being a complete jerk all the time. No, I mean that's the thing is that you when you learn more about his character and you're like he's protective as an older brother, and also when you find out the relationship between Kaiba and Yugi as well, that those are the things that give him the good side. So I mean people make fun of that whole thing about that dynamic, but you know what? That's like if I had a little brother, I'd probably be the same way, so I appreciate it. Yeah, good question.
I always thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Humanized.
Yep.
So you said you wanted Exodia to be summoned. You used the name Yugi, but do you mean Pharaoh?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, right.
Yeah.
I summon Exodia!
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.